because my next guest has done something almost nobody in media can claim. He's built a broadcasting empire that spans radio, podcasting, and digital content. And he's done it for over 3 decades without ever leaving Michigan. I love it. We're talking about 3,500 plus episodes, including presidents, A-list celebrities, athletes, CEOs, the kind of guest that makes other podcasters wonder how he even gets these people on the phone. And he's interviewed people who don't do interviews. It's so amazing, Michael, that you can do that. He's turned local radio into a national platform. And somewhere along the way, he figured out something most of us are still trying to learn: how to make a conversation feel like an event. I swear to God, I love your show.
Wow.
He's the host of the nationally syndicated Michael Patrick Shiels show, a veteran broadcaster, and honestly, one of the most connected people in American media. Michael, welcome to the show.
That's very generous. I want to look around and see who you're talking about. I wish I was all those things, but thank you very much.
You are. And that's the generosity and the simplicity that you carry, which is why I just loved it. I never knew I'm going to get an S. I got an S. I took it. Thank you.
Well, it's very flattering. And, I when you talk about Michigan and Detroit particularly, the radio market when I was growing up was so full of stars and celebrities and interesting people who were creative. And that's what was the spark for me, to be able to listen to them and say, wow, can you actually make a living doing that? And I never believed that it was possible because it is such a small number of people who get to do that. So every single day, I'm grateful every day to be in front of a microphone, behind a microphone, and a keyboard, whatever it is. Because they were really big, really creative people.
That's awesome. And you're one of the best in that. So, Michael, you have hosted more than 35,000 episodes by now, interviewed all of these celebrities and big shots. When you look back at all of these mornings behind the microphone, what's one moment that is still makes you stop and think, I can't believe that I actually did this and it happened?
Well, one that was funny is I was broadcasting from Kennebunkport from the George Bush Celebrity Golf Tournament. And my program was on the patio, and the golf tournament started at 10 in the morning, and I went off the air at 9. And with about 10 minutes left, I was about to close up the show, wrap things up. And up comes President George W. Bush, and he sits down at a microphone. Now, I had no idea that he was coming. They didn't tell me. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't anticipate that. And so we had this chat, and John Meacham was there too, the author. So the three of us chatted. And I often thought, if I had known he was coming, would it have been it surely would have been a much different conversation, because I would have over prepared probably, and I would have been. But I didn't have any choice. He sat down and put on some headphones, and there we were. And so that was a memory to me that I think happened in a way that probably made the conversation better, because and he's easy to talk to anyway. He's good fun.
Oh, really? And that's one of my questions too. So on the spot, on your feet, you got to think about something that can make the conversation flow. So this was a moment for you. Was it easy, or did you take some time? Like, how did you just prepare yourself in seconds that you're ready for that conversation?
Well, as you know, because you host a show, when the light goes on, the light goes on. And there's an energy. It's sink or swim. And and in the case too where it's live, you have no choice. And so we have all these different elements to remember, though. There's a listener, there's a producer, there's a clock, there's a certain time you have to fit it all in. And you have to move the conversation forward and be genuine, and listen is a very good important one too. So there was no choice. And I was very lucky that he was friendly and funny and generous. And, and another thing, he was a man and is who you can tease because he's going to tease you. And I learned from a priest, Father Jake Folio was his name. He's gone now, but he was an Italian American, and he was probably 88 years old when he taught me this. If you can think of Yoda, that's what he was like. He looked like Yoda, and he was like Yoda as he gave out this wisdom. And he said, in order to be reverent, you have to be irreverent. And for at least a year, I'm like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah.
In order to be reverent, you have to be irreverent. And so I did come to, I think, interpret that as if you're willing to be genuine with someone and they sense that you're not afraid, that you're genuine, that you can connect at a better level. And then it shows reverence. So for instance, if I said to you, you always wear those glasses, you'd say, wow, what is that supposed to mean? And I'm just kidding you. Now we connected. But if I sit down and I say, oh my gosh, those are beautiful glasses. Thank you for having me. There's this, we're pleasant.
Right? Yeah.
There's a difference. So George W. Bush is very much that way. He will tease you. He'll give you the needle and the stick. And when you're the president, you can get away with it. But if you can handle it, and give it back to him a little bit. And so that's what happened.
I just love it. And I'll tell you something about my glasses. I'm glad, like you said that. All my audience and my friends who see and listen to my podcast, they said, Shruthi, what pops out is your glasses. It's a big glasses with that smile. I'm like, oh wow, that's good.
You've got it all. It isn't just the glasses, that's for sure. $1 million smile and beautiful hair and the eagerness and excitement that you're feeling right now in hosting this is very evident, and that's that's something that people are drawn to when they watch or listen to a show.
Energy, Michael. Energy. So long before becoming Michigan's morning voice, you produced for J.P. McCarthy.
Yes, that's right.
And later worked alongside Dick, two legends of radio. You had to pick, if you had to pick one lesson from each one of them that's still part of you, that you bring it along with you on your show every morning, what would it be?
Well, the beauty of these two giants and titans of Detroit radio, who are both in the National Hall of Fame, by the way, for radio.
Right.
Dick Burton had a comedy show, and JP had a news talk sort of show. And Dick Burton put the news into his comedy, and JP put humor into his news. Because this is what life really is. We're not all, hopefully not anyway, consumed by politics, that it rules everything. And, we also aren't what F. Scott Fitzgerald says, a beautiful fool. We have to have some kind of drive or have you. So that was an interesting balance in Detroit where the number one and number two top hosts, AM and FM, were different, but in the fundamental way of life, they were the same. And I never really verbalized it or thought about it that way before, but that was an interesting, and they were very much rivals. Yeah. But they were both very successful. And and in my experience of working with them, they were both very nice men. Different, but nice.
Well, yeah. That's beautiful. And I liked about the humor, and I'll tell you, Michael, from the background, right, culturally, I don't understand the humor of America. Although I've been more Michigander and American than an Indian, I still have to figure out how to understand the humor because I've not seen the 70s movies, right? There's so much to learn, but I'm like taking my own smaller steps to learn, understand, and be part of, but it's not easy. So you have written 9 books, and I have promised myself that I'm going to check on each one of them and read it through. And including collaborations with Larry King. Everyone talks about Larry as a legendary interviewer, but what did he teach you that people don't know? Something that you still catch yourself doing every time you interview others.
Still to this day, I listen to old tapes of Larry King because I enjoyed him so much. He started
Right.
radio, he did overnight radio, and he
Hmm.
also used humor in the middle of his news talk interviews. I mean, he interviewed all types of people, and he ended up on CNN with that TV show. And he
Right.
got Frank Sinatra to sit with him for an hour. Nobody does that. So, what did Larry do? Larry's questions were short and they were naturally curious. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you'll hear an interviewer and the question is longer than the answer. And they've
Yeah.
already said everything, that the interviewee could possibly say.
Right.
I always laugh. I always wish that the interviewee would say, yes. That's not much of an interview. But Larry had the masterful idea
Yeah.
of the one word question. So, for instance, if you saw him, somebody would say, it could be a politician, or blah, 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 blah. And Larry would lean in and say, why? That's all. Why?
Powerful.
So now this person has to sort of reassert themselves and show their work and explain why they pontificated this statement. Why?
Right.
That's all. And so
Wow.
that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Now, I remember one time at the Buick Open, Tiger Woods was being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
They have a press conference after his round. And so we're 20 of us or whatever sitting there. And this man asked a question that was so long. It was very technical about golf and engineering and movement. And
Oh,
I swear it was a 2-minute question.
2 minutes question.
And everyone is like, wow, this is some kind. And you know what Tiger said for his answer?
Mhm.
He said, could you repeat the question?
Oh my
And that to me was so funny that I went and got the transcript of his question. And I've used it in speeches where I actually will read the 2-minute question. And that was one of the funniest responses ever because everybody in the room knew, holy cow, could you repeat the question?
Who is going to remember 2 minutes question for God's
Yeah.
sake? Oh my goodness. I have this, that leads me to this beautiful one. You once said the first 90 seconds matter more than almost anything else. What's happening in your mind during those opening moments? What are you trying to accomplish before listeners decide whether they will stay or leave?
Well, a priest also told me when it comes to the homily or the sermon, you have to have a good opener and a good closer. Everything in
Mhm.
the middle is not nearly as important as the two of those. So the hook at the start and the way that you wrap it up. And so you
Mm,
say that in an interview or a conversation. Interview is less predictable because you don't know where it's going
don't
to
know.
take. So
Right.
listening is important in that case, especially. But a
Exactly.
good opener is you're in good hands when someone is going to present it to you with some
Mm,
intrigue. You know what I mean?
right. Right.
This is before there was all the clickbait and everything now that entices people. So
Mm,
we are almost overloaded with, uh, enticements, teasing,
yes.
that kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's much more, as you know, because you do it yourself. You're much more vulnerable here
Yes.
to do that. And
Yes.
so, yeah, good open, good close. The
I
middle.
will, I'll remember that. I'll never forget. So let's pull back the curtain a little. Can you walk us through your process for getting someone who seems completely unreachable, a president? Oh my goodness. Or a celebrity? I don't even know how I got you because you're a legendary in my mind. But what's your secret, Michael?
Doing something different and surprising. If you want, I'll tell you how I got to meet Dick Burton in the first place.
Yes,
And,
yes.
to me, I didn't know how to do this, but I'm like, how do I reach Dick Burton? So I knew where his radio station was, and I
Mm-hmm.
had come home for the winter, for the
Mm-hmm.
Christmas break from college, and it was really cold Michigan week. Very
Mm.
bitter, like 2 degrees and a wind chill of 30 below, and all that.
That's
So
typical Michigan.
yeah, it was rough. And so what I did is I went to um, the store and I bought a microwave frozen breakfast. And if you've ever opened one of those, it's, scrambled eggs that are hard as a rock and all that. And I went to a restaurant and I took it all out of the microwave box and I put it into the restaurant box and prepared it and made it look like it was a carryout dish from the local. I actually just threw out the other breakfast and replaced it with the frozen breakfast.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was right down the street from his radio station, so I knew he would recognize it. So I went to the lobby and I said I
Yeah.
brought this as a gift for Mr. Purton. And inside there was a note. It said, "Merry Christmas. I brought you breakfast. I hope it's not too cold by now." And I watched them take it in, and there was a window from the lobby where you could see the radio show going on. And I watched them take it in there and hand it to him. And he was kind of surprised. And I saw him open it up and read the note and open up the breakfast and see that this was frozen solid. And he looked up and he looked into the lobby and he saw me and he went, "You?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Wait." So I stayed sitting out there till the end of the show. He sent out his producer and writer, Gene Taylor, and
Mhm.
on the spot, they hired me for a summer internship to work on that program. And so when school's done,
Wow.
come back, and so there I was at the number one FM show in Detroit, just because I
That
tried something a little kooky.
I know, but that was so cool. I would have, I would have, I don't know. I can never imagine myself thinking that way, but that was so cool.
Yeah, I don't know why that idea
But
came
that's
to me, but
such
it
an
worked.
amazing idea. If I try that, probably they will kick me out.
Well, it could have been an epic failure. They might not. You just don't know. But that's why I wrote the book called "Invite Yourself to the Party," because
Yeah.
lessons like that, and there were plenty that failed too. I have a big stack of rejection letters that I saved also from jobs that I applied for or things that I asked to be involved in. But
Right.
a lot of times, and maybe you've had this too, I would be at an event with J.P. McCarthy because wherever he went, I went because I knew he was in
Yeah.
all the top flight stuff.
Yeah.
And there would be a major personality in the room, like the CEO of the Ford Motor Company.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk to that person and say hi or whatever. And I'm like, what am I going to say? What is my gambit? What do I have to say to this person? I'm just 23 years
Right.
old. And so while I fretted, eventually the person would leave and
Mm-hmm.
I missed my chance. Now,
Many a times happens to me.
okay, then that terrible feeling when you dithered so long that you missed it.
Yes. Yes.
And I started to hate that feeling more than any
Mm,
embarrassing feeling I would have had if it was awkward or the person blew me
right.
off, whatever.
Right.
So I started to say, damn it, I don't want that feeling anymore. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that book, Invite Yourself to the Party, because even though it won't maybe ever lead to something, or it won't, maybe it'll be embarrassing, maybe what, but you'll feel better that you were able to propel yourself to do it. And to
Love
this day, I'm 58 years old. I still have that feeling, and I still have examples where I have to force myself to do it.
I just love it. I know for sure at one point in my life, I said, I'm not going to go to these parties because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to have a
Mhm.
conversation. What do I say? The big titles, the big, you know, you know how they carry differently, they talk differently, they smile less. I have so much in my mind. It was all on my mind. Right now, I decided to myself, Michael, that I'm just going to show up the way I am. I could be stupid. I could be, well, whatever, but I'm
Come
just
on
going to
now.
be me. And
Now,
I love
come
it
on.
with a smile.
For one thing, you have a gigantic advantage. You have the pretty bias, we will call it, where
Aw.
who is going to turn away you, a gorgeous woman with a bright smile? So you have superpower. You can walk up to anybody. Whereas
I
not
just,
all of us have the pretty bias. Okay.
oh.
So
You have the courage, you know the trick, you have that unique thought process that takes you anywhere and everywhere. I'm I feel like I'm still learning. I'm still a baby
well,
steps, taking
you
a
could
baby
go
step.
back to the same concept of you have to be irreverent in order to be reverent.
I
I've
got it.
done that. I still, that's a good one too. Or I find too, people love to be complimented on something, maybe like your glasses, for instance. I was at Four Seasons and Chris Rock was there, the comedian, and
Yeah.
he was coming out of his lunch and he was going to walk right past where I was sitting at the bar. Not too
Mm-hmm.
many other people were in there. I didn't really want to mess with him and I don't have too much to say. But as he's passing, I said, "Hey, guys are nice glasses." And he smiled and he said, "Hey, thanks," and he kept on going.
Yeah.
That's all I really need. And that's all
Yeah.
he didn't want to have a conversation with me, and I got nothing really to say to him anyway. But it was
Yeah.
fun just to say that.
Yeah.
And
It is.
and I'll give you another one too that you can, this is talking too much, but
No, I love it. Yeah.
yesterday I was at a fancy restaurant and I sat down at breakfast. I was going to meet someone. And next to me, they sat in the booth, a beautiful woman who had a very nice outfit on. She sat down and I just caught her eye and I said, "Wow, that's a very elegant look." And I said, "It's a privilege to sit at the next table to you." And she said, "Oh my gosh, that made me feel so good." Just I said, "Yes, it's gorgeous, perfect, beautiful." And
Oh.
she was delighted.
Yeah.
Now I know why, because a few seconds later, an executive came in. It was a
Mm. Ooh.
So he sat down for this job interview, and I heard him say, "Oh,
Right.
tell me all about your background." And I thought,
Mm.
well, just before she's about to have a job interview, somebody told her that she's looking good and gave her a little unsolicited
Confident.
confidence.
Right.
I hope she got the job, but and then you start to realize, you can be an angel in the world and not even know it sometimes.
That is so
Um,
true.
because maybe she was feeling unsteady when she sat down or nervous, or maybe, you know, and a stranger just said, "Hey, yeah, I
And
think
you
those are,
eased her down.
I think so."
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful thought. I mean, beautiful act, I would say. And I don't want, I don't want to. I have so much to talk, but then I do want to share this one piece with you. We just took a Alaska cruise last week.
Speaking of cold,
Beautiful. It's cold, but I loved it. You know who was on the cruise? I didn't even know this gentleman, and Fernando Mendoza.
yes,
And I didn't know who he was because I'm not a sports person. And I'm like, everybody's taking selfie with him. And I'm like, I'm poking my son. I'm like, do you know him? Who is he? And then he says, Mama, he's Fernando Mendoza. Do you know that he's a quarterback? He plays for Las Vegas. I'm like, okay, I want a selfie now. And then we were in the Haven, where there's a lounge where he kept coming in the morning, leaving, and I'm like thinking they're sitting down. I don't want to catch him in an off guard situation. Just wait for the right moment to have a pic with him, just to keep that memory. And he is such a wonderful kid and a gentleman, I would say. He had this beautiful smile. His grandparents were so down to earth. They were like, my son is very religious, very humble, very nice person. So but as she started talking about him, that urged me more to have a pic with him. Not
yes,
because of his title or what he's achieved, but the person, as a person. If you're humble, whatever you achieve in your life, if you're humble, if you're down to earth, if you're able to have this conversation this way, I love it. I want to have a pic with that gentleman. And I did. I did when
All right.
I took all the courage and requested him, and I have a pic from with him. So that kind of a memory in my mind, like what draws me to people is their personality, their um, humbleness, or that energy. I don't know, that energy connects me. Just
He
what
didn't
makes
mind, huh?
he
When you
didn't
asked.
mind. He didn't mind. He was full smile, brought a smile with a peg. It was so nice. I was good, getting one step ahead for the podcast. I'm like, no, Shruthi, stop. I will do that.
No, I did ask. You remember Mario Batali, the Italian chef? He was a TV
Yes,
celebrity.
yes,
So
yes.
he spends his summers in Traverse City, in Michigan.
Mm,
So he was on the radio with me about something, and I
yeah,
asked him, just like
yeah.
you were saying, when
Mhm.
we see you in a restaurant in the summer in Traverse City, what do you want us to do? Should we stay
Yeah.
away? What do you want to do? You want us to say hi? He says, no, no, please say hi. He said,
Aw.
but why don't you do it when I'm coming in or when I'm leaving? Like not in
Mm,
the middle of the meal.
right,
Okay,
right.
that makes sense. And it's kind of like what you were talking about. When is the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
to
Perfect. So what's the craziest thing that ever gone wrong during a live interview? And how did you rescue it without listeners realizing everything was falling apart? Was there a situation like that ever?
Oh yeah. On the anniversary of 9/11 one time, we had the
Okay.
entire show of experts about 9/11. Some of them were authors and what have you. And one of them was a scientist who was talking about the explosion of the Twin Towers and how they could fall and
Hmm.
that sort of thing, the science of it all. And there was another author the next hour who was of the opinion that it was not exactly as we seem, like kind of a conspiracy.
Mm,
Well, I got them mixed up.
mm,
So, and I was a little like, I was younger at this, and so I was a little more. I thought I'm going to argue with the guy who says it's a conspiracy theory because I don't want the listeners
yeah.
to think that I believe this. I'm going to just cross
Mhm.
examine him a little bit, like try.
Mhm. Mhm.
But unfortunately, I was interviewing the scientist who knew all about why the tower.
Oh.
So I was
Aw.
like, how can you possibly think that this didn't really happen? He's like, well, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I'm a scientist. I said, but your book says, no, no, it doesn't say that. And he didn't know what. He was nonplussed. He
Yeah.
didn't know what
Yeah.
to say. Because here I am accusing him of something that couldn't be farther from the truth. So
Right.
that was an embarrassing too.
Oh. But
Yeah.
nobody would ever realize that though. That's the
I don't remember how I got off that hook, but I will say this. Trying to be smooth is going to make it worse.
mm,
Sometimes you have to just keep it real and say,
right.
"Wow, I just made it." And the listener maybe will bond with you even more if they know
Right.
you're willing to say, "Oh man, did I screw that one up?" So
That's
sometimes we had Robert De Niro on one time, the actor, on the phone.
yes, yes.
6:45 in the morning he's scheduled, and I said to the producer, he's not going to want to. I mean, this is going to be terrible. He's not going to want to do this. And sure
Oh.
enough, he was there to promote a charity of some sort. I
Mm.
think it had to do with vaccines. Anyway, Robert De Niro's on the phone and he's barely answering. And so now I'm like, oh boy, I have to rescue this somehow because the listener's hearing this. It's terrible, whatever.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
said, when are you happiest? He said, oh, oh, so early in the morning. You have to ask me a question like that. And it's like silence. And I said, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
that movie, Taxi
Yeah.
Driver, when he said, you're talking to me? And I never would use a cliche like that from a movie because but in this case, I knew I have to do something to make it funny. So I
Yeah.
will make a fool of myself by
Mm-hmm.
using the cliche. to try to
I love
draw
that.
him out,
Yeah.
and because I'm sure anytime he walks through New York, there are people who yell across the street, "You talking
Mm.
to me? I'm talking to you." So and then
Yeah.
he goes, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," and it helped a little bit because
Yeah.
again, I was irreverent in order to be reverent.
Love it. I will never forget that statement, and I will make sure that I print it and boldly put that on my wall, so I will not forget that.
With caution. Maybe if you get pulled over for speeding, it might not be the right time. You have to judge for yourself.
I agree with that. So every host has the interview they do rather forget. And I know I already have one in just 1 year. I had
Yes.
one. What's been your worst guest experience and what lesson did it teach you?
Oh, it's disappointing when somebody comes on and they're not communicative because I'm
Mm,
not there to sell their book or their product. And if they're not
right.
excited about it, I can't be excited about it. But,
Mm,
there were some examples of people who, hmm, I don't know, they took themselves too seriously or Gina Gershon, the actress, was terrible.
mm,
And, I listened to the interview over and over. I thought it was fine, but she was just, this was recent. She was
okay.
put up about it. But, actresses and showbiz people are a bit, it can be a wild card. Like that.
Right.
Tucker
Right.
Carlson, who a lot of people think is kind of a maniac or a winger or whatever you want to call him politically.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
when I interviewed him in person in Grand Rapids, he couldn't have been more fun. Now mind you, it's 8 to 10 minutes, but I
Yeah.
will often go back and play that or send it to people if I said that. Listen to this though. So sometimes you find out that the people, as they present themselves in their shtick, are
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
that way when you're sitting with them in person.
That is
Now,
so true.
conversely, you might have a charming politician who you think is all that, and then you run into them on an airplane and they're not what you thought they were going to be. So the hope with
Exactly.
the interview is, I'm sure exactly what you're trying to do here is to get to
Yeah.
the real person, have a real conversation.
Right. Be authentic, right? Be real.
If you
And
can,
that's what makes it more easier for the audience who are listening to us. And then they can take away those golden gems, what you shared and what people share. Okay, Michigan and building a brand. I really want to understand this because I'm a Michigander, a core Michigander, I would say. And
yeah.
I'm trying to build my brand here, Key2U. Slowly, but taking the baby steps. You had an opportunity beyond Michigan too, but you chose to be part of the Michigan and your career over here. Why has staying in Michigan ultimately been the better story than changing to a bigger market?
Oh, I think about this. I'm on 13 radio stations in Michigan every
Right.
day on the radio show. And
Yeah.
sometimes I say, you know what? Maybe after all those years, you'd be good enough to advance. And I imagine myself on a Saturday in Atlanta, putting on a jacket and tie and going to CNN headquarters and
Hmm.
sitting in front of a camera with 5 guests on the screen surrounding me,
Yeah.
griping about the Senate candidate up in Maine and
Right.
why he should drop out of the race. And I
Yeah.
thought, wow, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Not us, right? Yeah.
So, and JP McCarthy, he had a
Mhm.
chance to become the morning host of Good Morning America. And it didn't happen, but he was philosophical about it. He said, because, you know, your quality of life is important in balancing your career.
Right.
So, what I don't know if I would have made more money or if more people would have seen me, but ultimately I had to have lived that life. So I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
imagine myself a New Yorker, or I didn't imagine myself. I saw a lot of people that have
Yeah.
that same role, Fox, MSNBC, NBC, whatever. They're all just doing that. And I have
Right.
the creative freedom to do this. So I learn a lot. I interview 10 people a day. I get to choose who they are. I get to see what I
Yeah.
have, what kind of music. I get to do all of that. So I don't really trouble myself about that too much.
I just love it. And I feel very deeply connected to Michigan, more than me growing up back home, because I felt like my entire learning, building who I am as a person today sitting in front of you, is a gift from Michigan. So I have a lot.
Wow, what a sweet thing to say.
And then I want to give back as much as I can back to the community through my work this way. So I was so proud. That was another proud moment of having you on my podcast today. So
Oh, thank you.
so let's talk about, you have covered everything from a capital to Traverse City, wineries, to Sleeping Bear dunes. For someone who isn't from Michigan, what makes this state such an incredible place to tell stories? Someone who's not part of Michigan, doesn't have any clue. Through your stories, what would they receive? And why would you think they would be interested? I'm just thinking about this in a different way.
Michigan, well, one of the greatest storytellers in American literary history was Ernest Hemingway. And he
Mm,
spent his early years up in Michigan, which is actually the name of the first short story that he ever wrote, Up in Michigan. So he was up there in Mansalona and Walloon Lake and Horton Bay. If you go to Petoskey now, there's a statue of him and the City
yeah.
Park Grill, and you can sit in the stool where he was and all that sort of thing. And so um, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that sort of thing. But it's a four-season state, and we
Yeah.
have beaches that look like the ocean, and we have forests, and we have industry. There's a lot going on in one state, and so I think if you're looking for um, any of those kinds of lifestyles, and one thing that's nice in the summer, maybe it was like this up in Alaska where you probably saw the northern lights and that, but we have
Yes.
sunlight on West Michigan until 10 o'clock at night. So you got a
Yeah.
long day to play golf or whatever it is that you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's very sweet. Now you have to endure the winter, but there is a bonding experience to the winter, I think, that you don't get if you live in Georgia or something like that, where.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. The colors, the fall colors.
fall colors depress me because they remind me of death, but nevertheless,
Oh,
we have
no.
we have football to make it all go away. That's good.
There you go. We have football there.
And then T.S. Eliot said April is the cruelest month. I think he may have been talking about the weather in Michigan.
That's a good connection right there. So, if you go back 10 years and give yourself one piece of advice about where media was heading, what would you say?
Oh, where media was heading. Wow. Um,
Or even yourself, what you're doing today?
well, I like to think that it's the singer, not the song. And we now have, well, what do I mean by that? Well, I say, if you hear your favorite song sung by a terrible singer,
Mm,
probably won't like it.
mm,
But if you hear a really good singer singing a song that maybe you don't even know, you can appreciate that, right?
enjoy that. Yeah.
So I like to think that that's what will happen in media because there are a lot of choices now. We used to have a
Mm,
few choices. Now we have a
yeah.
lot of choices. So the
Right.
storytellers who are compelling or
Yeah.
likable or trustable, and I
Right.
have to say this too, the storytellers who get you all riled up, there's a market for that too.
Yes.
Um, but the rest, I like to have some creativity, and
Right.
hopefully that will emerge, and hopefully we will still retain some attention span for satiating conversation instead of
Right.
just 60-second TikTok bites. I don't know.
I I agree with that. I completely agree with that. And you brought up a point where I truly wonder. Right now, many people are looking to become viral very quickly. I gotta be viral. And my video needs to be like, reaching out to X number of viewers. But you have built that trust through what you do and your work. Not easy. What is that we all need to learn? We all need to do to not go behind the viral piece, but to build a trust in what we do every single day.
Hmm. Well, some of this, I have these positioning statements that I use on the radio, and one of them is I take the work seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. And I really try to live by that. I'm not full of hubris, hopefully. I'm prattling on here, blah, blah, blah. But also, I don't speak any Latin, but in media stat virtus, the truth is in the middle. I say that too. I don't take a political stand, and I'm not going to tell you what to think. Rush Limbaugh always had his ditto heads, like, oh, we think like you, we're like you. Okay, that was his thing. Good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not for me because
Yeah.
I want to stay. And when I first started 21 years ago, the consultants from the company in New York, they said, you can't be in the middle. You have to pick a side
Yes.
and let people either listen because they like it or listen because they hate you. And I never did that, though. I smiled and I said yes, and then I just kept on,
Go in the middle.
trying to just let people talk instead of me. So I don't know.
Right.
That would be, those would be some of the statements that I make. That we're in the middle and we don't take ourselves seriously.
Wow, you've given me so many good stuff today. Start well, end well. Reverence ways, and now this. So I just love it. I just
I
love it.
learn these from other people, of course, but we are a sum of everyone we meet. And if we listen and we
I agree.
then
I agree. I'm going to start watching you more now
oh,
because I love it.
Asha.
So before we wrap up, I want our audience to remember our conversation in a way that what are the 3 or 5 minutes? I would say keep it three. What are the 3 good takeaways for any new podcasters or people who are even thinking have not started that, giving that confidence in them? What are the 3 things that we all need to take away from this conversation? What would you say?
For podcasters?
Yes, podcasters, I want it.
Okay. Well, it is a matter of opinion.
Yeah,
However, I noticed that a lot of podcasts ruminate for quite some time before they get to the point.
right.
And people, I think, are short on time often. So maybe you could get your foot on the gas and get to the point. When I started in radio, again, I think it was a guy called Tom Force. He was a
Mm-hmm.
long-time talk show or music host. He said, radio has always got to be moving forward. And again, I didn't really know what that meant. Oh, okay. Thank you.
I still don't know what that means, right? Yeah.
But the thing has to be going forward. And there's some performance to it, but also conversation. But
Right.
the guest can wander. You have got to always be in your mind, I'm driving this train. And it doesn't mean that you're not listening to the answer or that you might not wander into other territories or what have you, but always remember there's somebody listening that you have to sort of service and take care of. Now, I'll get another example. I have a guest who says something ridiculous, a politician, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What I will do to signal to the listener that I heard that too, but this person is a guest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be rude.
Yeah.
What I might do is they finish their statement, blah, this is terrible because of blah, blah, blah. I might just sit there for an extra beat or two. I'm like,
Wow.
and then I'll start going again. And
Yeah.
that is a way of me to tell the listener, oh, he heard, and they say, he heard it.
Right.
And so I like to play around like that. That's the level that I play in.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you wait long enough, it'll trigger the person to continue to talk. They will feel
Right.
the burden of saying, why they said it. And then they start to maybe get off of the talking points. And then we get into the area where you can seize on it if you can. So that is an example. If you put a pause and say, now there was an occasion too. Who was it? It was a well-known person. And I asked a question. I think it was a politician. And they didn't answer at all the question. So I asked the question again. Same intonation, same words, same question.
Yeah.
And they said a bunch of other stuff, and they didn't answer it.
And they didn't answer.
So I did it again, the same question. Now, they obviously were never going to answer this question, but it told everybody else, he's messing with him now. And so there's humor to that too. That's what I like, that you have this behind the scenes connection.
Right. I'll tell you, Michael, in this conversation of 40 minutes, I have like 10 things that I have noted down. And I hope the audience really, note that down too. And I'm going to make it a point to write that down and share that. So it is something that's so important for all of us to remember is be you, be authentic, be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable, and how to conduct your session. And those are all the things that is so important for us. I caught it from our conversation today. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you.
It's an honor for me.
No, it's a pleasure and an honor to be asked to pontificate in this ridiculous fashion. And if anything good came of it, I would say, if I would ask you just to retain one thing, is be nice to other people. Be nice to people, because Sparky Anderson, the Tiger manager, said to me, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice to people. And it sounds simple. And that might even be just a smile. And you have $1 million smile, which I'm sure everybody tells you. And thank you for the heart.
But thank you so much. And I don't want to stop our conversation with just one podcast today.
Okay.
I do want to think about all of our conversation and pick up something more, not a media, not a thing, about us as a human being, how we impact others, and how we bring that, how we service in which way. I'm just thinking about that. It's coming to my mind, but I want to think a little bit more about it. And I want to have that discussion with you, because you're not just a media person. You are full of amazing personality. At least from our conversation, what I caught is you're such a beautiful person by heart. And I really want to take that out and show it.
How sweet of you. Well,
and we want to do it one more next year or end of the year. I don't know, whichever the day and the time and works for you, I'll take it.
You have the key to me. Anytime you want.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You made my day. Thank you very much.